With the summer movie season coming to a close, we thought we would get together and talk about 5 great family movies that came out this summer. Now, these movies aren't content-free. Read our reviews. We'll link those in the description. But there were a lot of themes in the movies that we're going to talk about today that we really connected with and thought families would as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First up, we have Lilo and Stitch. Emily, you reviewed Lilo and Stitch. What makes this a great family movie this summer?
I think it's a great family movie. It is about family, found family,
Ohana means family?
Ohana means family, exactly. I don't know why I didn't think of that. No, adopted family, foster family. It is a good movie, I think, just about family in general. But also, it's a remake of a movie that we all know and love.
Yep.
Well, maybe some people don't love it so much. I think it depends on how old you were when it came out.
That's probably true.
Yeah, you're dealing with this cute little alien who comes to Earth, and he is programmed for destruction, but he is just softened by the heart of this little girl who's just like, I don't think you're bad. I think you're good deep down inside. We just got to bring it out of you. And it's a sweet little message. And there's just a lot of good messages throughout the movie.
I like the alien who can make sandwiches.
It's a handy skill. Now, there was a little bit of controversy around Lilo and Stitch where people thought the remake maybe swerved away from the Ohana means family. Speak to that a little bit. Yeah.
So I think that comes from maybe just missing something as you're watching it. So the whole point of the movie is that, so you have big sister Nani, little sister Lilo.
Mm-hmm.
They lost their parents in a horrible car accident.
Per Disney tradition.
Yeah, per Disney tradition. And Nani basically was about to go to college when this happened, but she gave up her dreams of college in order to take care of her little sister. But it's been rough. Like, they have had the social worker at their house, like, all the time being like, Nani, you're failing. You need to do this, and this. Like, gives her a whole list of things to do. And so Nani, this is her last chance. So Nani is really trying to get it together for Lilo, because she doesn't want Lilo to wind up going to a foster family. She doesn't want them to be separated, And so basically by the end of the film, I mean, again, if you aren't paying attention, you might miss the cues. The social worker is ready to take Lilo away from Nani. She's like, I see that there are extenuating circumstances here, but we have to do what's best for Lilo. Like, what is best for Lilo is for her to be in a stable home environment. And she's not wrong. She's a very kind social worker. She's really just trying to do what's best for Lilo. And Nani is still adamant in that, well, separating us is probably not what's best, but Nani's also not an expert on the topic, And so what ends up happening is this family who lives next door, they're like, what if we take in Lilo? And then Nani, you can go to school, but you can come back and visit her whenever you want. She won't be living, where, I don't know how the foster care system works in Hawaii, but it's like she won't be, sent to another state. She can be here and you can come home and see her whenever you want. That's kind of what ends up happening. But some people, I think, took that as, oh, so Nani abandons her so she can go to school. And it's like, that's not what was happening. Like, she was going to lose Lilo either way. This way, they still get to see each other. This way, Nani still gets, and that's the other thing. Nani really wanted to go to school, and this way, Lilo's able to like give her blessing and be like, no, I want you to go to school. Like, this is great. Let's do it this way. And
Sure.
I think people just kind of miss that.
Sure. Okay. Well, so Lilo and Stitch, let's go from one remake of an animated movie to another. Kennedy, you reviewed How to Train Your Dragon. That's the next one we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, I think How to Train Your Dragon, the reason why it was so well received when it came out was because it's essentially the movie again.
Like, they didn't change
anything.
Anything.
Didn't change pretty much.
A little bit different than Lilo and Stitch.
They took out
a
a couple scenes, they added a couple scenes, but
Yeah.
but they weren't really scenes that impacted the plot in any way.
Right.
Yeah, so How to Train Your Dragon, it has the same themes as it had in the first movie, which is kind of like this idea of figuring out how you fit into society.
Mm-hmm.
You have Hiccup, who's this twig boy who in a world of Vikings.
Yeah. Doesn't quite fit in.
And he's much more ingenuitive than he is kind of swing first, ask questions later.
Sure.
He takes down this dragon who is also supposedly supposed to be the last of its kind. They kind of form this bond together, and Hiccup and this dragon kind of figure out how are they going to fit into this society that is kind of determined that they're on the outskirts.
Right.
And so I think it really grapples with that question in a really great way for kids to deal with.
And I think through their example, they're bringing a lot of change into the society, kind of revealing, oh, well, maybe it's not Vikings versus dragons all the way. It doesn't have to be kind of.
It was this idea that just because things have been set in stone doesn't automatically make them correct.
Yeah.
And so it's not, encouraging rebel against everything, but it is saying, hey, just because something is accepted by the majority doesn't make it true.
Yeah. Sure. Asking questions, kind of leaning into that. So
I think my favorite part of the original movie was just that father-son relationship. I think that was what I walked away from the original.
Yeah, they come to understand each other a little bit better.
Yeah, because there's this kind of grind between both of them.
Yeah, and I think that was a really sweet message. So.
Okay, let's go to our next movie. It's an original movie that came out this year from Angel Studios. It's called Sketch. Paul, you reviewed it. Tell us a little bit about Sketch.
So this is where people start throwing things at their screen, because I do think that Sketch had a little bit of controversy attached to it. It's an Angel, as you mentioned, it's an Angel production. And some people were surprised by how scary it was and by how...
especially for Angel.
Especially for Angel, exactly. But for me, I know that this movie isn't for everybody. As you said at the very top, Brett, check out our review to make sure that it's right.
There's some scary moments.
And it really does lean into sort of a horror type of vibe. But in terms of its messages, in terms of the things that it's dealing with, that idea of dealing with grief, of dealing with anger, and how you process that as a little kid. I think that it had some great messages and some good messages, I think, for parents, really, when their own kids are processing difficult, hard emotions. What does that look like? And that's what I really liked about Sketch.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we talked about a little bit maybe controversial for some parents just in terms of, okay, this is a little bit more intense than some Angel Studios productions have been, but I think we really came away from a feeling, man, there's a lot of good stuff in here to talk with your kid, maybe even might encourage kids to express some big feelings in ways that are backed up by counselors and a lot of study along that. You had a conversation with a counselor about this not too long ago.
Great conversation with the counselor, and it was a really nice talk with her, because I think that sometimes, especially as Christian parents, we want our kids to be leaning into the positive, but sometimes kids' lives they don't always feel that happy. They don't feel like a picture of sunshine and green grass and happy people. They deal with some very difficult emotions as well.
Yeah.
And when you're able to process those through art, through play, it can give them a productive outlet. Now, in Sketch, because these artistic works come to life, it's not necessarily quite as safe, but that's part of the movie.
Right, exactly. That gives the movie kind of its excitement. So in some ways. Okay, so then the next movie we have on our list is another original movie, and it's a movie that actually started out on streaming, and it came to theaters and won the box office this last weekend. It's K-Pop Demon Hunters. So Kennedy, you reviewed K-Pop Demon Hunters. Maybe some people might be surprised this is on our list. Tell us why.
Yeah, I think this was definitely a surprise to me as well. Because, well, number one, I'm not really a K-pop fan. And number two, when you hear Demon Hunters, you're like, okay, what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
But basically, I'll give the general plot real quick. There's this underworld lord named Guima, and his whole thing is he wants to send his demons up to our world so they can steal souls and kind of feed him with them.
Yeah.
And so every generation, there's these human hunters who stand in his way, and they're usually a female trio who also happen to be singers. And the reason why they're singers is because they found that song ignites souls. And when enough souls get ignited, it creates this like protective barrier around the world called the Han Moon in the movie. And so they're hoping that one day they can ignite souls enough to make that kind of temporary barrier become a more permanent barrier.
To block the demons from
and
affecting humanity.
And in this movie, a lot of other stuff happens. The demons decide, hey, instead of hunting people, we're going to turn some of our demons into a boy band and try and sway the...
Which sounds realistic.
This is why we wanted to dig into this. Yes.
Yeah. But I thought the interesting part about the movie...
Yeah.
First off, it's very Christian because they're hunting demons, right? No.
There you go.
But yes, there are demons in this, and Guillemot is kind of like the Christian idea of Satan in a way.
Preys
But
on
it's
people's
really
insecurities and their shame.
yeah. But that's where it really gets deeper, because one of the characters in the Huntrix trio of singers, she's actually part demon, and what you find is throughout this movie, it's actually doing this really good job of unpacking shame and guilt. And these kind of, whenever you're talking about demons, a lot of times in this movie, it's actually kind of describing these feelings of not being good enough, of dealing with past shame, potentially from something you did that was wrong in the back, and just feeling like you're never going to be good enough.
Right.
And Guillemot, he uses those insecurities and says, you're not going to be good enough. But if you align with me, and then eventually so I can steal your soul, he kind of says offhand.
Right.
If you align with me, you will be good enough.
Right.
And so you have these people who are looking, and their shame is, the demon's shame is kind of depicted by these markings all over their body. And so these people look at their markings and they say, oh man, I'm not good enough.
Right. I made this mistake.
And so this movie is really powerful, I think, at helping kids and teens to process, I've done something wrong. How do I move on from that?
Yeah.
And what I really liked about the movie, last thing I'll say, is that it didn't just say, you have these markings and that's okay. Because I think a lot of movies do that, where it's like, you should be proud of those markings.
You be you. Yeah.
But instead it says, you have these markings and you can still move on from those. And maybe those markings won't ever go away fully, but you can still grow and you can still become a better person, and you can still become, as the song says, who you were born to be.
Okay. Yeah. So if you can navigate some of the spirituality and some elements there, sounds like a really good message to take from it. And you can talk
it's
with
actually
your
the
kids
number
about.
one movie on Netflix of all time now.
Yeah, there you go.
Surprisingly.
So very popular. So your kids might be aware of it, asking to see it. So there's some good messages in there for sure. So from K-pop Demon Hunters, we'll go back to pre-existing IP to our last movie we're going to talk about today, which is Fantastic Four: First Steps, which is all about family, right, Paul? You reviewed that one.
It is all about family. And of course, this movie is not necessarily for little kids. This is more sort of a teen-centric movie, I would say. But it really it leans into the family aspect of this quartet of superheroes, right? They're even called Marvel's first family. And they lean very, very heavily into that family vibe. And in some ways, it actually sort of reminds me a little bit of K-pop Demon Hunters, because you have the main bad guy is also out to devour souls and also planets. So
in a very literal sense.
In a very literal sense. And so the Fantastic Four need to stop him. But there's also a baby on the way. And this is one of the things that I really loved about this movie. It may be one of the strongest pro-life messages that I have seen in a secular movie in years. And I don't think it was intentional, but it really comes through in that this baby's life is precious, both before it's born and after. And it is worth saving, because essentially the main bad guy wants this baby and promises that if he gets the baby, he will save planet Earth.
Kind of like a Rumpelstiltskin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of as well. So it comes with some really, really strong messages within this very fun superhero-like vibe. And I thought it was one of the stronger movies that I saw this summer.
Yeah, and I would say, I saw it as well, and I thought there was a really good depiction of a marriage between Reed Richards and Sue Storm as well, just really like leaning on each other throughout the movie as well, and as they become parents, and they're not 100% sure how they're going to do that, but they're committed to each other and committed to their family as well. So that was pretty cool to see.
One of the things that I realized as we were having this conversation is even in these most of these movies have done really well at the box office, but they come with some really strong messages. And if you as a parent are willing to engage with these movies, if the movie is appropriate for your family, you can have some really robust conversations with your kids. And so be looking for those opportunities as time goes on when you're watching these movies with your kids. how can I talk about these movies?
Perfect. Okay. Well, that'll wrap it up for us. Thanks, everyone. So more than just these 5 movies came out this summer that might be good for families. So what movies did you see that you liked that we missed? So let us know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.